Hello and welcome to episode 80 of the Foundry Roundtable, the podcast exclusively covering the Foundry for Star Trek Online. We're coming to you live, or not, depending on when you're listening to this, from the brand new Club 47, open to the public today. I'm your Tame Foundry author, Drogon1701. With me are my two co-hosts, Greendragoon and Markhawkman, who are neck and neck in the Ferengi Shuttle Racing Championship Series. The winner, of course, as it is every year, will come down to who cheats the most.
So you're saying we're necking it?
I do not personally consider it to be cheating to use Borg transwarp technology in your shuttle. It's merely using the most efficient engine available.
Always stay within the rules, which permit everything. And we have returning to the show tonight our guest, Jahmen.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, welcome back. Well, obviously we start out tonight with Club 47, built by Taco Fangs, with some assistance from the other devs in hooking up various things. So, Dragoon, as our cameraman, why don't you take us on a little tour here?
Well, we're over in the lounge area right now.
As the exterior window with a Guardian is now floating past outside. By the way, that's new.
Yeah. Makes sense that Taco would want to kind of keep things fresh.
Oh, sure. But it's nice that he's rotating out the ones that are outside as well as inside.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he had to update the ships for the new one that came out today.
Oh, yeah. Lounge area has all kinds of different booths and alcoves and tables and all kinds of different things.
Then we got a bar area in the middle. And we've got our very own Elorian bartender. And correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the same Elorian from Temporal Ambassador, is it not?
We had an Elorian from that?
Yeah, the one that you could find sitting on a cot complaining that things were wrong.
Oh.
I thought that the name seemed...
I would have to go back and look. One thing I'll point out that is almost every chair and bench should be sittable. Unless it's otherwise occupied by an NPC, of which there are many.
Yeah, so some of the NPCs seem to be permanently bolted to benches, like this Ensign Gog guy over here who doesn't move ever.
It was pointed out to us before the show that some of the crew members of the Enterprise F are around here. Personally, because I didn't really pay attention during the anniversary or whatever it was, the first contact day thing, I don't know who they are. So,
and then the last area is the dance floor.
Which, how much do we love this animated surface here?
A lot.
I think Lieutenant Commander Moroni might be here somewhere as well in this bar, so I'm told. Oh, hey, Captain. He's a captain.
Got promoted?
By the way, he got promoted.
And he escaped from Memory Alpha.
Yes, he'd escaped the
Thomas.
horrific destruction. I mean, his poor Kiriyoshi O'Brien is still missing, presumed dead.
I don't know how to tell the O'Briens the news.
I know.
I thought that Memory Alpha simply got reclassified to a covert research facility, and all personnel got reassigned.
Oh, I see. So the destruction
reassigned,
was
you mean
a
eliminated?
cover story. Captain Moroni is the one behind it all. How do you think he got that promotion?
Who did he sell out to escape?
I did do a dramatization of the destruction of Memory Alpha called Memory Alexandria. I put a little story in on that one. That's pretty fun. I was really sad to see that beautiful stuff go. I love that
yeah.
interior.
Beautiful.
You know, I seem to be alone on that one. I don't know why. I hear, I
mean,
it from a couple people.
There is no accounting for taste.
I am sorry to see it go because it's memory alpha, but yeah, I'm not going to really defend the science interiors.
What about the glowing, large planetoid ball in the middle with the
planetoid was kind of
cool.
I did like that. I thought that was cool.
There were many aspects of the science interiors that I liked. There were. It's just that there were also many aspects that annoyed the crap out of me because they had the most annoying doors anywhere in the game.
There were doors?
Well, they weren't doors that opened and closed. It was like door frames that you would walk through that had these fin things jutting out from them that you would get stuck on if you bumped into them.
Ah, yeah. Okay.
I think we have some of that architecture on a couple of Foundry maps, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh well, one thing I noticed recently that amused me, not in a good way, mind you, but it was still amusing, was that we actually still have the option to set the entry door for a Foundry mission to be on Memory Alpha. Not that anyone can go there, but it's an option.
They haven't removed that from the editor, is what you're saying.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or, for correction, there are 2 doors in Memory Alpha. I'm not sure if that's the same number that was present previously.
Now, did we have... sorry to interrupt. Did
go ahead.
we have that map in the Foundry still? The Memory Alpha map?
No.
Because I had a mission based out of there, and I moved it to Bajor because... actually, it worked with the story, because one of my characters is a Bajoran, but...
no, we can't use the map itself. I don't think we ever had that.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you could set some doors on the social map version, but you couldn't make your own.
So, here's an interesting idea. Is what if we were to do a like a contest to design Memory Alpha or design a new Memory Alpha, and then we can put up all the coordinates for anyone who wants to use it.
Well, Taco would win.
But we get him to design one.
Yeah. If that got his attention and he designed one, that would be awesome.
The only thing we can't replicate from the old Memory Alpha is the ramps and the floor geometry. I mean, because I think that we have all of the actual props that were placed in the facility. We just can't replicate the actual geometry of the floor.
I know. I mean,
props are there.
I would almost want to tell people to don't necessarily try to replicate the old one, because I mean the old one was one of those relics from the beginning of the game.
Be creative and try and design a whole new place.
Yeah.
We don't have a planetoid with domes. I don't believe, do we?
No, we don't. But maybe we could bug Taco about that. See if we can't get it.
Wait, I thought we did have the ability to use the Memory Alpha space map for Foundry missions.
I do not
have
remember.
to go double check.
Because I seem to remember there being something in Memory Alpha that was like a planet with a bunch of those white domes covering the surface.
Yeah, you could see the buildings.
It might not have been the actual Memory Alpha space map. It might have just been a planet that looked like Memory Alpha that you could place in a custom map. I don't remember. One of the two.
So before we forget, there is this also other little place here which has some bank access and mail access, and of course the refresher, which seems to have a line permanently.
It's amusing that the bank and mail is next to the refresher.
Mm-hmm.
Keisha looks like he's about to cry.
I suspect that it's not actually a bathroom behind there, it's the corpse chute.
People are just dying to get in there.
Anyway.
I had my mouth while I was eating.
That is the new Club 47. Obviously, I mean, it's a social zone. It's for hanging out in. It doesn't have any practical purpose other than that. But I'm of the opinion that not everything has to have a practical purpose in a game like this. You know, there's something to be said for just building the world and
It's
expanding
very
the
elegant.
world.
Sorry, pardon me.
No, go ahead.
And this is one of the.
Yeah.
I was going to say this is one of those instances where I dare somebody to try and connect this back to a monetization scheme by Cryptic.
Yeah, there's no way anybody's spending money for any of this.
Especially since they made these shiny new outfits. Literally, these new outfits literally are shiny.
Yes.
And they give them away for free.
Mm-hmm. And I think they cost, what, Gold Press Platinum?
Yeah.
After this weekend?
Which is about the least monetized currency ever.
Yes.
I would propose that human energy is equal to money or gold, and so.
Oh, definitely. But a lot of people like to forget that part.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you go based on the price in GPL for getting them after this event is over, it's cheap because of the fact that GPL is the one currency in the game that you can't, directly correlate to having a real world value because of the fact that it doesn't come out of lock boxes. It comes from playing Dabo.
I'm glad to see them add something more to the GPL store.
Yeah, it's a currency that gets neglected a lot.
This is certainly an interesting new item, and I would certainly like to see them add more. Although, given with the way things work, the next event is the winter event, and historically the winter event has had, shall we say, extremely little to do with the GPL store. They might add a way to buy boxes of winter trinkets with GPL, though. Because if I remember right, they have had the option to sell winter trinkets for GPL, but not vice versa.
I lost track of you guys.
We're on the dance floor. So, I mean, I can only say that I really love all this map. It's fantastic in that I hope that they use some of the money from my ops pack to pay Taco's salary for doing this.
Yeah, it's definitely worthy. I mean, you're right. Adds such atmosphere to the starbase, and to have a social zone, it is really neat because there are nice places, but this is actually a nice, very refined, elegant. Like I would like to go to this place, and I gotta jump back to we go to the foyer. We gotta go to the foyer at some point, the main entrance.
Yeah, we should check that out.
There's a great door there.
Yeah, and the waterfall. Let's go check that out. Should we go down there?
Ooh, we totally need to have that door added as an independent Foundry asset. Just because it's so awesome.
That'd be tricky. It's kind of very curvy and kind of built into the structure.
But how cool is this fountain?
That fountain is pretty cool.
All gather at the fountain.
So I wonder, do the colors change in time with the colors on the floor? Or is it
I doubt it. I think it's just a loop.
It looks like it's on, just a simple loop.
Yeah, I think that this fountain thing just cycles through colors. But,
And by the way, you can't walk into it.
No.
Even though the glass stops above head height, you can't actually walk into it.
But the fountains are not playgrounds.
Actually, to be honest, I think that this
children should stay out.
The water on this is actually on the inside of a glass funnel, and what you bump into is the glass funnel, and then there's the water flowing down the inside of the glass funnel.
That's a good thing. Go ahead. Yeah, go on.
It looks like it's very similar to what they did with that one window over near the Taylor, where you look at the window, you have the glass on the two sides, and then you have water flowing down inside the glass.
So Horient in the chat room makes a good point, is there's some great wood textured props in this Club 47 that we haven't seen before, and wouldn't it be fantastic to get some of that wood texture in the Foundry?
Oh yes, very much so.
There's many new props here, obviously, that we'd love to have.
I always wonder with something like this how much of it can actually be pulled out. Because I mean, you can a lot of this.
Well, I
is,
mean, Taco pulled out a lot of stuff from the rest of ESD.
That's true.
He made Foundry
Well,
Assets. He
Taco
may have had
did
that in mind.
a while back before Taco actually started working on this. Taco did this forum thread where he was discussing what people thought would make for an awesome Club 47, and he even went to the extreme of not only posting but asking for examples of what people thought made for an awesome club.
Well, I mean, I think Taco has a pretty good sense of what makes good Foundry assets. I mean, his additions from ESD showed that. And if you think about it, I mean, the mediums he has to work in are not all that dissimilar from what we have to work into the Foundry. They don't want to completely design every single piece from scratch every time they make a new map, so they have to make something.
He was actually talking a little bit about that today in a thread on the Intrepid interior about reusing things.
Did he happen to talk about what was it? The room kits, I think he called them.
He didn't mention that, but that was something that we were talking about on Twitter quite recently.
Yeah. Okay.
About adding room kits. I think it was after he listened to the show from 2 weeks ago, or something like that.
Yeah, I mean,
that would be nice. Which I essentially think what he means is, sort of whole built rooms that you could put in, and then we could line them up with each other.
Well, it was discussed in the same general framework as the way it works in Neverwinter, which
Well, I mean,
which I think we kind of came to the idea that we don't necessarily need all of that. We just need the rooms themselves, and we can line them up ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I mean, we're pretty clever.
Another example I used was the modular map designs that some of the missions in Champions Online have, where you have a hallway that's X length and maybe has a few corners in it, and then you have rooms of certain specific sizes that fit together and stuff. I could very easily see that particular system of map layouts, which granted only works for interior maps, but it's still, something that's...
It would be very useful for us to have.
Yes, extremely useful.
Especially if we had, Federation Starship interior kits, various rooms, that would, we could make interiors for whatever we needed in seconds rather than hours.
Not to mention the problems with running into the asset limit every time we try to do something complicated.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, another reason to want to have them for Starship interiors is that the existing Starship interior maps have a limited array of layouts. Let's put it that way. There are certain things that you simply do not see in any of them.
So let's see here. Obviously, bottom line for Foundry with this new edition is we actually did get these party outfits that you see all of us wearing as an added asset into the character creator.
I don't know if anyone...
I would go with most, not all, but hey, whatever. Okay, never mind. The other people are guests, not part of the show.
Everybody you see on camera right now.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah. Obviously, the Cryptic can do more things than even we can, but I'm sure authors can have some fun.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely planning a Tron episode.
I'm curious. Did anyone check to see whether the Pathfinder model has been added?
I did not look for that.
That is a beautiful ship.
Well, I haven't actually had time to load anything in the Foundry today because for some reason my computer took 3 hours to patch.
Yeah, that was a
Yeah,
bug.
a lot of people were getting that. I personally did not, but I know you did, and Hippie John took a long, long time to patch.
Ditto. But I did a restart on the download, and then it just fired right up. So I don't know if they brought more servers online or what the deal was there. But
well,
I think
I heard a lot of
glitch.
people mentioning that as a option for getting it to work faster, and I tried that, and it didn't help. Honestly, I think restarting the download in my case actually made it take longer.
So
that's because I got your spot.
So I'm going to go check the Foundry, see if any of those ships were added. So the other bottom line, of course, is that one of the things that Taco has talked about in the past is that he wants to add Earth Space Dock into the Foundry as a map that we can use and customize. And I think the holdup essentially was getting this part of it done so that he could put it in completely.
Yeah, if I remember right, there was a conversation where someone asked Taco why he hadn't put it in already, and he basically said that he hadn't put it in because Club 47 hadn't been installed yet.
Yeah, and I've been actively pushing for him to wait because, I mean, let's face it, this was worth waiting for.
I'd say so.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't really interested in Club 47 at all in its previous incarnation, but this is awesome.
Yeah.
And the music rotates. We get different music, and it's pretty good. It's actually not bad.
To be honest, Club 47 version 2 was the worst one in my opinion, because the first one, it wasn't really a club, but it looked cooler.
It was more of a bar area with a couple tables.
I was going to say theme restaurant, but yeah, that works too.
Yeah, I mean, it was very loud. It was little more than an alcove with a bar and a couple tables, and then there was that upper lounge.
Yeah, well, that's what I was getting at. The upper lounge area has a very interesting decor that, you know, it's like a restaurant, I guess is the best way to put it. You know, you sit around, relax, and whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's got that S-shaped couch, which I'm sure we have in the Foundry. I think you can still get to it in our...
That's probably where it came from.
Yes, we do actually have ESD 1.0 in the Foundry.
Mm-hmm.
The club aspect of it is a tricky part to get to, but it is part of the map. I spent a few hours tinkering with ESD 1.0, and as far as I can tell, every part of ESD 1.0 is included as part of the Foundry map. It's just that you have to figure out where the coordinates are, and you need to use relative to zero values because, oh boy.
Yeah, it's a way up. They're way up high or way down low.
Up high, down low, and some of them are literally, you know, like outside the box. Is the best way I could think of to put it. Because you see that round area where you have the main hallways and stuff. Then you see this little, like, in the actual map, it's really just this little visual thing that's there for decoration, which shows like I guess you could say the hull of ESD. And, you know, when you look at the map, you see that hull thing drawn on the map, and it actually hides certain parts of the ESD layout that are actually outside the footprint of the main part of ESD, which is actually where the club is. It's on the northern section of it, I think a little bit to the left of center, and at a weird elevation, of course.
Okay, so I have a report from the Foundry. First of all, it looks like the new Intrepid class is supposed to be in, but it is exhibiting that bug where only some of the lights would show up and the rest of the ship is just not there.
Okay, so it hasn't been imported properly.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a Fed Intrepid class retrofit. This is the first entry. There's several of them. which allows you to use the Bellerophon skin, which I don't think was there, or at least was not there for a long time, but we now have access to that. Funnily enough, we do have access to the upgrade material that was just released today.
I think that comes through just because it was released to everyone.
Yeah, because it's a default thing. So it's pushed to the Foundry as well. Okay, so there's Fed Intrepid class Retrofit 2, which is actually the Aero Shuttle.
Oh, cool.
Which was just released today. And then there's Fed Intrepid class Retrofit 3 and 4, which that's the one where all you can see is a little red impulse engine glow, and there's no customization options.
Yeah. So yeah, it sounds like its geometry hasn't been hooked up properly.
Yeah.
Right. Did you say that we have?
It's supposed to be in there.
Oh, sorry. Did you say that we had the new Intrepid interior?
No.
No. In fact,
no. We don't have that. Oh.
No.
That's one of those things Taco said would be very hard. I guess because of the way ship interiors are built.
Well,
in this case,
if we get any maps,
didn't they? If it's something they just recently made, whatever.
I wouldn't say it's impossible, but I would say it's difficult.
Well, yeah, he didn't say impossible. I mean, it would just be time consuming.
Okay,
harder than a normal map.
Well, one thing that Taco mentioned is that adding something to the Foundry is easiest when you initially create it, because you can save a copy of the version of the object that has just the geometry and none of the special sauce, and then put that in the Foundry, and then add the special sauce to the version that goes in the main game.
Define special sauce.
NPCs, triggers, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know. I mean,
love it. I love it.
We've asked Taco
special sauce.
times
I like that though.
over the recent months.
In the case of an interior, a big example of special sauce would be the NPCs you can talk to do things, the trophy room, the account bank. There's like a dozen things.
Well, I mean, we've told Taco enough times over the recent months that it's something we would really like. So, I mean, hopefully maybe he finds time, or he was thinking about it when he was building it or something. Who knows?
Yeah, it'd certainly be nice.
Yeah. So, there was another thing I wanted to do while I'm in here in the Foundry that I was going to do for myself, but actually it's a good idea to let everybody know what I find out. I was going to look up the level requirements that the new NPCs give us. How when you place an NPC group on the map, some of them have minimum levels tied to that, and your mission becomes set to that minimum level. Romulans was 16, Klingons was any level, things like that. So we got a whole bunch of new ones
Elachi are 21.
Elachi are 21.
are 40.
Yep.
I believe.
If I remember
right,
Borg Cooperative, even though they're friendly, they will set the level to be the same as if it were actual Borg.
That's correct. They are 41. I'm looking at it right now. Bluegill are 51. They set your mission to 51. Let's see, who else is new? Lachi are, yes, 21. A lot of this corresponds to where you...
Bodwar?
Let's see, I'm
Bodwar, I believe,
scrolling down the list here. Hirogen are still 16. Kobali. Kobali are 31, even though they're friendly. The same as Mirror Federation. Mugato are any level, that's nice. The new Rogue Federation and Rogue Klingon ones are any level. This is ground, by the way.
Space is probably the same.
Yeah, that's my question.
Vodwar 51.
Okay.
Okay, now let's go to a space map. All right, NPC groups. Benthans make your mission 31.
Interesting.
Those friendly ones are lower than the rest. Borg Cooperative are 41 again. Let's see, what else here? Kazon are any level. That figures.
Yeah, it really does.
They changed the phasers on those. Apparently
They
not
still use
TOS
blue phasers.
Are
It's
they
not
Andorian,
TOS.
or?
Yeah, I heard somebody talking about that in chat, and apparently they now use the Andorian phaser effect.
It is Andorian. Okay, yeah.
Interesting.
Nice. Those are nice. They look good.
I imagine they just didn't want the phasers to make the TOS phaser sound.
Yeah.
That screen
Thank
noise is
And say
amusing,
honestly,
but some people don't like it.
I get tired of it a little bit after a while. And Vaudwire Space is 51, of course.
Okay, so it's just the bluegill and the Vaudwire, the ones that'll put you above
Above level
Vice
50, yeah.
Admiral.
Bluegill. I'm not familiar with that. What was that?
How far have you gotten into Delta Rising?
Yeah. Okay.
Have you heard of this thing called bug?
We don't want to spoil it for you.
I've been so focused on editing that I haven't actually done much playing, and I'm really looking forward to putting that down and playing and going through all this wonderful new content.
Yeah,
I'm
we
about halfway
can't-
through it. I'm at 56, level
You're-
56.
Well,
Anyway.
you know, as much as we have been sometimes frustrated by some of the decisions made, the actual story content and stuff out there is really fun, really cool missions.
Yeah.
That's where we usually have come down so far.
Yep. No complaints up to where I'm at so far on that front.
So let's move it along to actually there have been some bugs that have cropped up recently that we've found in the Foundry. One of them is that the Section 31 costume is missing for males. You can still put it on your female characters in the costume creator. Here's one thing that we learned that is actually not a bug. Cryptic Frost went and inquired on something for us. Apparently, there's actually no helmet and no gloves for the Delta Alliance reputation armor.
Yeah, which I think is a real shame.
Yeah, because it looks sort of incomplete without him.
Yeah. 'Cause, I mean, especially if you look at the way the arms end, they kind of end in this hard edge in this gap. So it definitely looks like something was designed to be there.
Well, with the way projects like this work, it's entirely possible that plans changed halfway through.
Well, I mean, it's game development. Plans constantly change.
Which apparently has something to do with the Suliban, but hey, whatever.
Two of one stole our gloves and hat.
No, I meant that during the thing for Legacy of Romulus, it seemed like we would get the ability to create Suliban characters, but we never did.
Yeah, making player characters is more requires more than just an NPC.
Well, actually, that was one of the things I was thinking about. Is that can we actually do the thing to make an alien look like a Suliban? I don't remember if we can or not.
Not really. I've seen people try and get close, but
We just don't have the skin pattern.
no, we just don't have that skin pattern.
See, which was the interesting thing, because during Legacy of Romulus beta testing, at one point in the beta testing, people did. You could make an alien and actually use the Suliban props.
I don't know. I mean, it could be anything. It could be that they wanted to do it for a special reason or certain circumstance, and it just
One
never got the right
One
opportunity.
hypothesis going around on the forum at the time was that at some point in the development cycle, the devs were planning to add the Suliban and Akamarians as members of the Romulan Republic, and then change their minds.
Possible. I mean, the Romulan story has a lot of aspects that are very specific to Romulans and passable as for humans. I mean, the only reason they added the alien gen was because people complained about it so much.
It was a much requested feature.
Originally, that the Romulan alien was going to be something other than the standard alien, but apparently the devs came to the conclusion that there wasn't really a good reason for that, and they couldn't come up with something to make it different in a good way, so they decided to just make it the regular alien. And at one point in time, they said that they were going to make it so that it was only for subscribers and not just everyone, but yeah, they changed their mind on that too.
They do often change their minds, and more than people think, and react to feedback more than people think.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah, game development is very fluid.
Yeah. So, Mark, I know you've encountered another couple of bugs in the Foundry recently. Why don't you talk about that?
Well, the first one I noticed was that when you are using the Hirogen and Jem'Hadar armor for... Okay, I tested this on Romulan characters, okay? I did not test this on every race, just Romulans. But when you're making Romulan characters, certain options are missing for the males. The single shoulder pad options, which you can do on females, are apparently missing on the males. And there's this belt pouch thing that the females get that the males don't, which, you know, overall it's a relatively minor bug. Because it's not like there's a large piece of the armor missing, it's an accessory. The other thing is that I noticed that certain enemies seem to have, shall we say, disproportionate strength compared to certain others, and I'm not really sure why, because it was just one of those things where it was like pitting a captain-level mob against ensigns. Well, that was the general effect of it, when in reality, it was two mobs at the same level.
Is it like anything like Voth against Orions, where you know the Voth are just going to murder the Orions because they're a more advanced...
No.
I think it was Tholians, right, that you were finding to be super strong?
It was the Tholians that I was tinkering with, because Tholians do strange things when you reskin them as humanoids, and I wanted to play with that in the mission I was working on last night. But turns out that one, I'm not sure if there's a recent change or if I just hadn't noticed before, but currently Tholians do not have a weapon firing animation of any kind when reskinned as humanoids. That's annoying, because you really don't understand what they're doing unless you know that the whole thing where the Tholian's body lights up is part of their, attack animation. Because that's the only thing they do when you reskin them as humanoids, is they just glow briefly when they're attacking, but you don't see the weapon firing animation.
Yeah, well,
that is kind of cool, though, because you could hide them inside an object and you get this neat glowing effect. I mean, is that possibility? And you get damage from a glowing effect? Am I stretching it?
Well, that was the part of this that was somewhat annoying. The part of it that was really annoying is that certain of the mobs, their weapon damage was insane. I mean, because my Foundry character is relatively well geared for a Foundry character and currently level 51. And she was getting plastered by the Tholians as if she was wearing nothing.
Could this be related at all to the weird enemy scaling we've been kind of seeing with Delta Rising in general?
Maybe, because I noted that it was a few of the Tholian groups that seem to be doing this, and not all of them. Because if you do the Lieutenant Commander 04 one, that one I saw do this a lot. But if you did, like, say, Lieutenant Commander 01, that one didn't. So,
Yeah, it sounds like, this could very well be like a game-wide problem and not specific to the Foundry.
Well, it sounds like it's something very similar to that issue they had in some of the Delta patrols, where you would have Vadwar ships spawned as the elite version in a normal difficulty map. And, annoying stuff like that.
Yeah, insane. I think they found a problem with the multiplier, was just like, they were like doubling it or something.
Yeah,
it was causing like insane hull values and whatnot.
Do you guys remember that brief period where this super powerful Romulan warbird would spawn from captain level mobs?
The Deridex Defender.
This could be a similar thing to that, where that got added somewhere else in the game.
No, this is different from that, because the Deridex Defender was a specifically defined unit type. And it was simply showing up in the wrong place.
No, for a while there was a bug where like Deridexes, like generally spawning Deridexes in the game, would just be like insanely hard.
Because instead of being a normal Deridex, it would be the Deridex Defender boss mob from the vault.
Yeah.
But
you guys are talking about the same thing.
With this particular bug, it's like their weapon damage is simply doubled.
Yeah,
their HP seems to be normal, because I looked at that while I was staring at the respawn button to see if they had extra HP, and they apparently didn't. But they were doing damage so fast to me that even though I turned on Nanite Health Monitor, I didn't observe whether the effect went off because I died too fast.
Well, thankfully, you bug reported it, like everybody should if they find something, and Cryptic Frost says he's investigating. So hopefully we will get our Tholians returned to normal.
Is whether those are the only ones, because obviously I did not go through every possible enemy in the Foundry.
I got a couple to throw in.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I was working on missions, and I noticed the Cretacean headpieces for the males are not available for the females, and I believe, if I'm getting that right, that is what you use in order to create the Defari. Is that right? The Defari? What's Mela? Mela is a Mela of Tholian. She's Defari. So I'm not actually able to create her headpiece as it is in the Doth picture, which leads me to believe that Mela is actually a man. But that yet to be discovered.
it sounds like it's because the Defari should actually have both versions of the forehead horn on both genders, I think.
Right.
I'm not completely certain about that, but I think so, because I've seen the NPCs wandering around with both versions.
And I have noticed there's sometimes a few, just in the regular game, there's some headpieces of those head organic pieces that are not on one or the other gender.
This is true, because, also there are certain things you'll see on certain specific NPCs which are parts that are simply not available anywhere else. Like, that infamous example of that one particular Federation NPC who has a tail that is never seen anywhere else in the entire game.
Who's got a tail? I want a tail.
It's one of the Federation engineer aliens. He has this short pink tail that is decidedly different from the tails that you have on Caitians, because it looks kind of reptilian, and it's like half the length of a Caitian tail.
Cool. Okay, I got a couple more.
Okay,
I don't know if they're bugs, but just we have purple waterfalls, but we don't have blue waterfalls.
That's because the only waterfalls that Taco put in were the ones from New Romulus. Now I think there are some from ESD here that he could add, though.
That would be nice.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Just
they'd probably be shorter.
Yeah, they'd be smaller.
Fine. I also noticed I was really playing with the waterfalls, and when you level a water plane with a waterfall, you get the waterfall. You see the waterfall kind of over top of the water, and I don't know if you can. I don't know if this is even possible to get rid of, because the water is transparent, right? So I even played with incrementally lowering the waterfall down through the water plane by 0.001, 0.002, but I did that whole stupid thing, and you can always see the square outline because the waterfall is actually an upside down L shape. It comes like an upside down L, and so it comes out and drops down, and you always get the top. I'm going to call it the top tail there. Is always visible, and so it kind of gives a screwy effect.
No,
I was having trouble hiding that.
There is a splash effect like for the waterfall, right?
At the bottom, yeah. I'm talking at the top, like so.
Yeah, could you use that to kind of mask it?
I'm not visualizing what you're saying properly. What do you mean?
Well, it sounds like the basic issue is something analogous to the way certain combinations of NPC costumes will give you this plastic effect where you can see a line between where the neck and the torso is. It sounds like you're getting a similar effect when you try to piece together the water volume.
Yeah, and you get this perfectly square flow that's coming down. It's so outlined that even if it was somehow a different shape or something, it would. I don't know. That's what we can do about it. Maybe get rid of the tail, the top tail part of it more.
Well,
a lot
what
of the top tail.
Greendragoon was talking about is the possibility of disguising it by putting something to cover the little
the seam between the assets.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. In this particular instance, that wouldn't work. What I did do in other sections is I put blocks up, right up close. Like I put a big block on the tail.
Did you ponder the use of aquatic plants or something along those lines?
Yeah.
Or
rocks.
rocks.
That would kind of. I actually have aquatic plants floating in that map. That might actually work. I could move them around a bit. Yeah. They actually look quite nice. Good suggestion. Thank you.
No problem.
Awesome. So let's move along to talk about what we've been working on. And since we have our guest here, why don't you go first, Jahmen? What have you been working on?
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Well, before we do move on to that, I just want to say if any members of Daft Punk are listening to this, you're more than welcome to make some music for ESD. They were the guys, or for Club 47. They were the guys who did the Tron soundtrack. For any of you that don't know that, so
and Fight
those
Club
guys
as well.
And Fight Club, yeah. Oh, I didn't know that. You want any of those guys listening? Love it. Yeah. Okay. So moving on here to what I'm working on. So last time I was on, I was talking about I'll plug Memory Alexandria because we were talking about the destruction of Memory Alpha, and in that mission,
you were serious.
Oh yeah, I was serious.
I thought you were joking.
No. I was pissed that got blown up, and so in my in my fury of the great library of the Federation being destroyed, I wrote up a mission of the Undine coming through the Tenebia transwarp gate, and it's a very quick, probably 15 minutes max. Nobody's going to get any dilithium for that one, but it's I made it a lot of fun. And you basically are on a survey mission, and your gravimetrics officer comes up and says, there's something going on in Tenebia, and you go in there, and the Undine comes streaming through, and you are then contacted by a fleet admiral who says, we have gathered a force we can't stop the Undine, but the best we can do is try and gather some of the unarchived data in Memory Alpha, and are you willing to be a part of this task force? And I give the player the option to say, you know what, I'm not risking my crew's life for this, or they can go ahead and do that. And I put some historical footnotes in there as well about other times in history when knowledge has been destroyed by empires. And so it's a bit of a historical tie-in. It's combat-based, with a quick survey mission in the beginning, max 15 minutes, and if you try and blow through the Undine, you'll have some fun doing that, but they'll probably get the best of you. Just a warning. But everyone can go play that one. It's a good fun play.
Well, I must say that I do enjoy shooting Undine.
Yeah. So they're in there, and
I enjoy shooting them almost as much as I like hacking them to pieces with a nanopulse batleth.
but they're biologically advanced telepathic beings. How can you gain pleasure from this? Oh my god, man! My god.
the same way I gain pleasure from using telekinesis to knock them into the walls.
Right. But this is the guy who made the mission where you blow them up. So you know. Yeah. Oh, and in there, I actually managed to do a really cool thing. As far as the Foundry goes, is I placed small Federation shuttles in the planet, and I closed them in a force or in invisible walls, so that there's just a small gap, and so they try to get out, and it looks like phaser beam. And I put that inside the planet, right, so that it looks like phaser beams are coming off the planet's surface, and I somehow managed to rig it so the Undine, they do their 5-star super blast, super beam blast when they get 5 ships together and they all coalesce and do their beam, and somehow when you warp in you get the 5-star formation, and they do a huge blast right at the planet that I've made Memory Alpha, and I took a planet that looks like it's on fire, so it looks like they just decimated the place by the time you've gotten there. And your job is to get as much data, re-engineer the satellites in orbit to get as much data off the planet as possible. Did I just give away the whole mission?
Close enough.
I think you did. Yeah. Anyway, but it's fun. Go play. So that one I did a while back. The one I am really excited about that I'm working on is a bit longer. It's probably going to be about 40-minute play time. It's the second part to Photons of Possibility. And Photons of Possibility deals with using the sun's ionic field to create a system-wide holographic network. And it's all about, and of course that allows any beings in that holographic network or a holographic matrix to have that solar system any way they want, which the Ferengi aren't too happy about, because they want to be able to add supplies, or to sell supplies to worlds and stuff. So they don't like this technology, and so now the Borg get involved. So that was part 1, and then so part 2, which is Mela of Tholia, kind of expands on that, and you start to discover why the Borg are so interested in this technology, because they have technology like this. I mean, they're far more advanced than we are. So why would the Borg be trying to limit this technology that the Federation is now recently discovering? This technology that allows for almost limitless possibilities, right? And within a solar system. And I'm really happy with what I've created there in that the Borg. I've gone right into the Borg's the Borg consciousness and the Borg collective, and I've managed to. I'm going to give away a little bit of this too, because I love it. I've managed to make so that the Borg are divided. The Borg consciousness, and any person, any being that is assimilated by the Borg are divided into 4 categories, and one of them is a data layer, and the other one is a virtual layer, and the third one is a holographic layer, and the fourth one is the drone layer. And so the data layer is Borg that are purely existing, almost like on a database. They're just statistical numbers, and the graphical layer it's the statistical numbers, but the resources are given in order for the Borg to experience a slightly better quality of life. And then the third one is the fully virtual holographic world that the elite Borg, who are being rewarded for conforming to the Borg Queen's wishes, so to speak, they get, the Borg that do conform are slowly elevated, and so they can live in this fully holographic world. And then, of course, drones are used when they need to interact with the tangible world, which icky, tangible world, yuck, wants to be there. But so and it's all about how the Borg don't have much resources, and so with a lack of resources, there is power outages, because there are so many beings using up energy within the collective that they are constantly out assimilating more resources just to allow their consciousnesses to survive within the virtual layers that they've created. So man, I gotta tell you, trying to tell that story has been really tough, and I've had to unfortunately just do some info packets in there that people sort of read through, but I've tried to integrate it as much as possible into the story. So looking forward to some feedback on that, and I might just make a whole third part after, even though I've already explained it a bit, just so people can play through those ideas a bit more. So
it certainly sounds interesting, that's for sure.
Did my explanation come through? Like, did you understand what the heck I was saying?
It's certainly a complicated idea, but I think I got the gist of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just basically so that the Borg have these 4 layers of consciousness, and depending on depending on how useful they are to the Borg Queen, they get elevated through these layers, and energy is the prime concern, whereas they just don't have enough energy to give everybody a fully virtual world to live in. But this holographic technology that's being developed by the Federation, which uses ambient sun energy, would allow for the Borg to free themselves from the collective, right? And they wouldn't have to be slave to the Queen's, conform to the Queen's ideals. So it's
how nice and convenient that we now have friendly Borg cooperative mobs.
I know,
right?
Just could not agree with you more. When I saw those, I was skipping in my little pants. I mean, I gotta tell you. When I saw that stuff coming out, and there's supporting storylines going all through the new content. So I'm really happy about that, and that kind of really works out. But you know what? I haven't played through. I don't know what Christine's done, and I don't know what the other writers have done through the other 5 levels that I haven't played through. So I don't know if I'm touching on some of the concepts that they have already put out, or I came up with this about a year ago, but so I don't know.
I don't think the Borg really appear in the final 5 episodes.
Oh, goody!
Not too much, and I don't think in any way that would contradict anything that you want to do.
Yeah, they're really not particularly relevant in any of the stuff leading up to DR. I mean, because you have that part where you do the Borg episodes leading up to where you have the Undine, and when you go to Undine space, and then the Undine in Undine space, and then you have those special episodes after that leading up to the Jenolan Dyson Sphere and the Selene Dyson Sphere stuff. And you don't really see the Borg except for a few brief mentions.
Cool. All right. Nice. And the Borg consciousness and the Borg collective is never known. Haven't seen anyone really delve into that. So I was when I got this little epiphany, I thought and it kind of fits in with our little Tron outfits too, because
the most interesting things, right? Examination, and by interesting I mean weird, of the internal, I guess you could say, mind of the Borg. It was in the Shatnerverse novels, where Shatner was trying to explain how Voyager and the Borg are really the same thing, and trying to explain the drone version of Ilea's actions as being consistent with the way Borg think, which in some ways makes sense, but not really.
Well,
I think the Star Trek Online guys actually kind of went with that a little bit, because obviously the ships that show up at the end of the Red Alerts are the Voyager style.
Yeah, style, but they have a distinct Borg twist to them that the actual Voyager didn't.
I never put that together, but could be. Voyager was massive.
It plays this sound effect when they show up sometimes. That is, that sounds like those music clips that you would get when Voyager was doing stuff.
You know how they got that? particular sound. I think if I remember the story correctly, it was by hitting a guy wire on a power line with a metal pole or something. That's how they got that sound.
That doesn't sound dangerous at all.
I would have guessed that it was.
It may not have been a metal pole.
I would have guessed that it was that they made 20 different random sound effects with a digital synthesizer and picked one they liked.
There are a lot of sound designers who just do not want to use synthesizers, or they start with a real sound and then use the synthesizers on it.
Well. See, that was the thing with Voyager, is that most of the stuff that it made, it sounded like someone was using a retuned digital keyboard and playing music on it to do the Voyager sounds.
The best sound guy I know, he's like that. He goes out, walks around, and takes live samples, and then takes it home and just messes with it until it sounds awesome. But yeah, and of course the title will be Mela of Tholia. So I'm doing a Mela, the Doff Mela and the Tholian Doff that we have in there. They will now be connected in some mystical way. So yeah, that's also part of the story.
As you were saying that they will be connected, I'm like, what, are they lovers or something? How does that work?
Without giving away too much, they end up sharing a bit of a consciousness, and I tell a story of how I end up sharing a bit of a consciousness, and I end up telling how that happens and how we start to be able to communicate with the Tholians as well a little bit. So I get into a little bit of Tholian lore there too, and I hope to really expand on that.
I actually like that idea of taking Doffs and making a story around them.
Well, yeah, and because every player can have them as part of their crew. They're a secondary character that isn't changed or altered. So,
and with one exception, none of them has a backstory.
Right. Yeah.
Which you can fill in.
Which you can fill in. Yeah. So
even the one with the backstory is pretty open.
Right.
True.
Yeah. And you can. As you're playing, you just kind of get inspired. It's like, when I was playing, I used to put Mela and that Tholian Doff together. Or I used to take a Tholian and a holographic Doff, and I would put them down, and I would always kind of pretend that somehow the Tholian was working with or projecting that holographic Doff, and then it kind of occurred to me to mess around with that concept a little bit.
I have to say, the idle animations that Tholians have are really, really cool.
Yeah, like they get the little pod that shows up, and they just sort of, move the way they kind of move around, and they pull up their holographic little matrix there and tap into it. Yeah, it's pretty neat.
Yeah, it's like their version of a tricorder has this giant holographic screen that they can type on.
Yeah, and of course, which leads me to, if anybody's listening out there, I would love to have some unarmored Tholians. That would be fantastic, because all the Tholians are armored, so...
Yeah, because it assumes that you're working because they can only live in a Y-class environment.
Oh, right. Okay, thank you. Never mind.
Yeah, well, they will actually, shatter/explode if they get chilled by being put into a Class M environment.
A la Enterprise Mirror Universe episode.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, where do you think the devs got it from?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
they don't
Tholian
actually...
friendlies would be nice too in space, or a Tholian skin that we could put on a friendly. I don't think we have.
Who was it? The Benthans use Tetrion.
The Benthans do use Tetrion, yes.
So they could be passable Tholian 3 skinned in space.
But I don't think we have an NPC skin that you can reskin them as, though. Well,
we got lockbox ship.
I'm not sure about that, because the lockbox ships have been put in the costume creator.
What would we be reskinning the Benthans as again?
Tholians.
Well, that's what we'd like to.
We've got the Tholian skins as costumes now.
Well,
or the ship.
Really? Yeah.
This question is, do we? And I'm going to go find out.
Yeah, because last time I checked, I was...
Rogan, we didn't tell you could leave the Foundry.
We should just have someone always permanently in the Foundry so we can answer all these questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, while I'm checking on this, Dragoon, what have you been working
on? Making a few fixes for part 2 in free time, which hasn't been as much as I would like. Let's see. Mostly that, actually. I think I'm up into the between 70 and 80 plays now.
Right on. Nice one, man.
That's pretty good for the short amount of time it's been out. In fact, that's really good.
I'm thinking about the point it reaches 100, it'll have a high enough rating to get onto the top 50 list and overcome the weight against it for the low number of plays.
Sorry, what was the title again? It was Midas, something of Midas?
In the Shadow of Midas?
In the Shadow of Midas 2? Man,
yeah, part 2.
After making that, you need a rest, dude. That is such an epically created
I haven't started on part 3 yet. I got a few thoughts on it, but
take a break. Seriously, no, like that. All the technicality in that. I mean, I think I said this before. Or somebody should. The technicality done in that map is awesome. It's never seen before. I think when I first time I played that, I was just blown away. And when I'm making my mission, I always think, oh, this is nowhere near as good as Dragoons.
That's okay. I made my missions thinking, oh, this is nowhere near as good as Alimax.
So that mission is truly an inspiration now.
No, that's like 2 years of work, though.
Yeah, okay. Well, it shows. It shows.
So we do have Tholian mobs, or Tholian NPCs, or costumes, sorry.
In space?
Yes, space ones. Okay. So you can create those as a costume and reskin Benthans or whoever.
Yeah, nice. Excellent.
Yeah, Benthans use Tetrion, which is the same as the Tholian, so they won't do any of the cool web effects or anything like that.
Yes.
But
do Benthans have any special tricks of their own?
Not that I know of.
I imagine they have, they have some buff powers they can use.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I can't remember what they are.
Do they have anything that a player can't do?
Not that I remember. Just from fighting alongside them in the Delta Rising missions.
Well, it'd still be reasonably a reasonable facsimile.
Yeah, it's not going to do anything that's going to throw the player off that they're not actually Tholians.
Yeah.
Which is cool. It's kind of nice when we're able to do that sort of thing.
Yeah, we have some more options now for friendly mobs, which is very nice.
Oh yeah, it's just multitudes more. So much nicer.
All right, Mark, what have you been working on?
I actually, last night, spent a few hours working on my Fractal Nebula mission. I ironed out the difficulties of coming up with a way to make a ground mission bifurcate twice so that there are 4 possible outcomes for the mission when the map is actually fairly linear and it's not a matter of doing different things based on whether a player went left or went right.
Cool.
I don't actually have all 4 of the story things even halfway done because I spent a lot of time trying to figure out that annoying thing with why the Tholians were acting up. Yeah, I'd actually tinkered with using Tholians reskinned as humanoids before and liked the way it looked because the last time I remember doing this, the humanoids would do this motion like they were shooting at you with a gun and have a radiation beam come out of their arm. Not really there. And you would, see them shooting at you even though they weren't carrying guns, which looks kind of cool. They don't do that.
Yeah, biohumans.
Yeah, exactly.
That's freaking awesome. Nice one.
But I decided not to use them because they were not working quite as well as before. What I did end up doing, though, is I came up with, well, I don't want to give away the story, especially since I haven't actually written it yet. So if I do tell you what I was planning on doing, it might be different when I actually do it. Anyways, the basic
and then we
idea
would
here,
one-star you because of our expectations.
Two people already did.
Jerks.
I published a test version, and somehow people actually managed to find it, complain about the fact that they couldn't find the starting point, even though it's explicitly labeled as a test version. Oh, and I actually did explain where the starting point is. And yeah, they gave me 1 star for that.
Yeah, people will insist on doing that.
On the upside, that means that I have enough that it's no longer in the reviewer purgatory.
You should be honored that people
right?
are jumping on your content like that. That is actually an honor. And the 1-star thing. I think there was a. I'm gonna call out Apex Predator on this one because man, he was funny. He 2-starred me. And I asked him, one of the reasons I asked him why, he said my grammar needed a little work and stuff. That was fine. But I forget who was in the chat with me when he said this, but it was pretty darn funny because he said, anyone who uses Klingons or Mirror Federation gets 2 stars.
Oh, boy.
So, yeah. So,
we all have our preferences, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can have the best mission
some
ever,
of them are
and there will
less
still be somebody who
insane than
who it doesn't work with, or they don't like it.
That's why I always try and when I'm reviewing a mission, I always try and look at it from a point that, even if I didn't like it, I try and look at some, parts of it objectively. Is it well made and things like that? So maybe there will be somebody else who will like the things that I didn't like about it. If it's, story related things like that.
There aren't really all that many things where I will simply go, I hate this, therefore I'm going to downrate you because I disliked your mission concept. That's not something I do very often.
I think we've talked about star ratings a few times in the show before, and my basic premise is if it works, if the dialogue is legible, and I can get through it, you get 3 stars. If it's good,
that's average, right?
Yeah, if I can get through it and kind of understand what the heck happened, and it's readable, you get 3 stars, and then. If it's really good, if I enjoyed it, 4 stars, and if it was epic, I give the 5. But I wish we had half stars. It'd be cool. But sorry, go ahead.
Going back to Fractal Nebula, there is one thing I can say about it, and that is that the basic gist of it is that depending on the choices you make in the mission, you will end up meeting one of 4 races. Well, okay, maybe I'm going to actually have more than 4 races present, but you're only really going to spend a lot of... anyways, you get the idea. The difference, though, is that some of them are actually races that you would not expect to see anywhere. Some of them are just races you've never seen before. The basic gist of it, though, is that you go into the nebula, you find this planet, which, let's just say that I came up with a sneaky trick for making it so that the planet will not always look the same. We covered the technical details of that in one of the previous shows. It's one of those little tricks you can do where you take 2 enemy groups, stick them like way off on the edge of the map, and leave them to fight each other while you do something more important.
Yeah, that's a very useful trick or tactic or technique.
And depending on which of them dies first, one of two things might happen. Anyways, so you use that to make so the planet's different. But see, when you beam down, once you get to the planet, the basic map always looks the same. And you really have absolutely no idea where you are because the map that you beam down to doesn't exactly look like a, shall we say, physical object. You find yourself in this strange place that looks kind of like you're in an other dimensional void almost. And
Nice.
you kind of have to wander around and figure out where you are. And of course you meet these other alien races, some of which are more alien than the others. And you kind of sort of have to figure out why they're there too. Of course you don't meet all of them unless you play the mission several times and choose different dialogue options every time.
Sounds almost like a slightly out of phase reality, or some kind of different plane of existence.
Well, it's kind of the reason why I called it Fractal Nebula.
Oh, nice. Gotcha. Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, the basic thing is that, well, truthfully, it's inspired by the old Choose Your Own Adventure books, where you make choices that are seemingly innocuous. And in some of the books, you know, there's a coherent story that goes from start to finish, and your choices simply affect how you get from point A to point B. In some of them, however, there are certain drastic story branches where, shall we say, things happen that don't logically make sense as a part of the story. Like one example of the first one is this book where you're a fugitive in a future version of the solar system, where you have to figure out how to overthrow the warlord that's taking control of Earth by visiting the people on Mars and Venus who don't like him, and, you know, stuff. That one has a very logical story flow that makes sense even when you take the story apart and look at it as, you know, several different paths that fork and do different things as you go around. It doesn't have branches where one of them doesn't fit with the others at all. Some of them, one of them, I don't remember the name. The basic principle of it is there's this mad scientist who's doing some sort of kooky experiment, and you kind of sort of have to interrupt him in the middle of his experiment because something went horribly wrong. However, depending on your choices, the nature of the experiment, when you finally find out what his experiment was, will be different. And that's the sort of thing I did with Fractal Nebula, because what I do is when you're on the ground, there are rather innocuous things you do, and depending on the dialogue choices you make, you might end up, you're basically doing blind choices, even though you don't really know you're making choices. And what the choices do, well, it influences the story flow, even though it doesn't look like you're doing something like that.
Sounds almost like a technical experiment mixed with a story, almost.
Well, it's a form of pseudo randomization.
Yeah, no, I dig it. Yeah.
I can't do this thing where I have this random number generator spit out a number and then choose which version of the mission you get based on the random number. So I throw in little things that don't appear to be choices but actually are.
Well, that just makes me get down.
Yeah, the main thing with this one though is having pop-up dialogues that are part of the map, You can't use story dialogues for this. You set trigger points to have the pop-up dialogues pop up, and each of the dialogue boxes in the successive order checks the previous dialogue box that you were in for the state that dialogue box was in when you exited it, in order to determine which options are available in this dialogue box. It's relatively complicated, actually. Rick?
All right. Excellent. So, I can tell you a little bit about what I've been working on. Yesterday, just playing around with talking to people on Twitter, I came up with this band, a Bajoran metal band that is not unlike the Mayhems. Obviously, they're more serious and social commentary kind of band, rather than what the Mayhems are. And so I've been playing around with that, and I'm actually going to build them a stage and like green screen behind them and make like music videos or something. I don't know. It's still in the planning stages on that one, and haven't quite got all the characters down even. But that's just a fun little side project. I've actually been working a little bit on. I've been playing a lot of Halo recently, and kind of thinking about the storytelling that they do is very epic, very broad. Storytelling, there's lots at stake, and there's lots of heroics, and just tons and tons of things going on. I was thinking, how can I translate that into a Foundry mission? And I realized I was sort of already doing it, because I had this 2-part Borg involved mission where part of it is the Borg have launched a massive attack on Romulan space, and you as a Romulan Republic captain are part of the defense. And so I've expanded that part of it to include like a full-scale invasion of a planet, and you are tasked with trying to repel them, and when it's clear that you're not going to be able to, you will even try and evacuate as many civilians as you can. I'm even trying to figure out how to do something where, how the Borg scoop sections of cities out of the ground. We've seen it, one of their very first appearances, Best of Both Worlds.
Only the first appearance, actually.
Yeah, we haven't seen them do it a lot, but we have seen them do it. And we've never witnessed it firsthand. We just see the aftermath. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, how could I depict this in the Foundry? How could you be in one of those sections that they scoop up? And I'm thinking to myself, okay, so what if I built a city in sections? There's this middle section where you're going to be, and you can see things in the background. Okay, then when the Borg starts scooping this up with a big tractor beam, despawn all those other sections so that it's like the ground falls away. You can see the ground. Do it on an exterior map, so you can see the ground far below you.
Actually, this is one of those things that would make good use of the fact that the Foundry missions don't actually have a proper horizon, because this is one of those missions where you have a reason why you don't want to have a horizon. You have things that obscure the lack of horizon, then you take them away and you're like, oh crap.
But I'm still in the early stages of planning that part of it.
Well, the basic gist of it
exciting.
Sounds extremely similar to something that has popped up in DC Comics several times, just because that's one of the characteristics of the MO of a certain DC Comics supervillain.
Which one?
Namely Brainiac.
Ah, Brainiac.
For Brainiac likes to make bottled cities out of cities he scoops up from assorted planets. Granted, he usually blows up the planet afterwards for some crazy reason. He's a supervillain,
The supervillains do that. Obviously, one of my aims with this mission is to sort of turn the Borg back into that, sort of unstoppable juggernaut. that they were back when they were introduced in TNG. That there's almost like this faceless entity that you can't stop, and it will just steamroll right over you. So you have to try and find some other way around them to actually defeat them.
Yeah, you can either give up and die, or you can try to run and die tired.
Mm-hmm. So what you end up doing is you end up going on essentially a suicide run into Borg space through a transwarp conduit and trying to infect the source of the Borg, their actual. I think I call it the nucleus of the Borg, and try and infect them with a similar agent to that thing that future Admiral Janeway infected the Queen with in Endgame. So to do something like that and to at least damage them enough where they'll pull back from their attack.
Well, I agree with you there. The Borg should be the scariest bloody things. They're so technically advanced. There are so many of them. And they are methodical and unstopping. I mean, as a small kid, there's two movies that scared the crap out of me. It was Jaws and Terminator. And just because of the unstoppability of the relentless robot. And I think that, with the intelligence and the technology that the Borg have, they should be bloody scary.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, that's one of the paradoxes with the Borg, is that they have all of this acquired stuff that they don't really seem to use very well.
And the more they showed them, I think the less scary they were.
Well, I mean, in many ways, we as Foundry authors are just as guilty of defanging the Borg. I mean, it's like so
Hey,
often.
Speak for yourself. I've never used them before.
Yeah, me neither. I never really felt like using them.
I don't think I've ever used the Borg.
Oh, correction. One of my missions has you exploring ruins found on a former Borg planet. You do not fight the Borg, you loot them.
But I mean, my point is that I often see it used as a villain in Foundry missions, and we always have to beat him. And at some point, it's like
because you have to always win your engagements in the
after the 100th time, I mean, are the Borg still scary?
Well, that's the challenge, isn't it?
I have something to read for you guys, and for those of you that follow STO Reddit, I'm sure you read this. It's a short little thing, but it's probably one of the funniest things I've ever seen in STO Reddit. And I'll try and do it justice. Here goes. Sir, he yells, a Borg tactical cube has just warped in. I'm reading 5 escorting cubes and a number of spheres. We need the entirety of Starfleet here, immediately. The CO sips his coffee and shrugs. No need, Lieutenant. I know just who to call for such a situation. 30 seconds later, a small force of 5 ships crewed by admirals warps in. A Galaxy X, a Jem'Hadar dreadnought, a Rising Corvette painted eye-searing pink and blue, a ship from the goddamn future, and a freaking Undine battleship. The ships then proceed to effortlessly annihilate the entire Borg force with no losses, then shoot off fireworks in celebration. They depart with majestic calls of "Deeps parse, please" and "GG, LOL." The officers on the starbase are confused until a Chiss beams down and drops a space disco ball, compelling them to dance while weeping on the inside.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, that one Reddit gold. The author of that was Ceranius, Ceraunius. I probably pissed myself. I'm just going to admit that. That was so funny when I read that. I'm glad to share it with everybody.
All right. Well, let's see. We still got about 20 minutes here. So there was an interesting challenge posted in the Foundry forums today. Let me pull it up here. It's from Locutus of Cactus, speaking of the Borg. So Parrises squares is a game that was mentioned in Star Trek several times. I think Captain Picard played it. And it was never, as far as I know, explained exactly what it was. So this gentleman, or lady, whoever he is, or she is sponsoring a Foundry tournament to make a Parrises Square game in the Foundry. So it's asking you to essentially make a mission that can be for multiple players, must be Federation faction, must be played on a ground map, and must be as close to accurately representing Parrises squares based on what we know from Star Trek shows and movies, which really isn't much at all. He said it may include single-player mode as well, and may include combat and ways to get injured. The grand prize he's offering is 10 million EC and recognition as the official Parrises Squares Foundry game. Maybe. Cool. He's hoping to get it spotlighted, which would be awesome. Smirk did respond to the thread saying he loved the idea. And he said, don't forget to make outfits. What sports without some uniforms, right?
Yeah. Well, the thing with Parrises Squares, though, is the same reason why we don't have playable Tongo in Stowe. You see it mentioned in the TV show, but they've never actually explained the rules.
Well, that one they actually show, and you can almost get a little bit of sense of how it's played, but obviously you don't know any of the rules practically.
Yeah, it's basically a cross
for Tongo.
Cross between poker and Monopoly.
For Tongo, it's not as simple as you would think, because while they did show people playing it several times, it came out differently every time. It's basically like the writers, every time they wrote an episode that involved Tongo, reinvented the game except for the props.
Well, it can't be any more complicated than Fizbin.
Well,
I don't know. My DOF seemed to fail that mission quite a lot.
At least it's not a Tuesday.
We may know actually a little bit more about it than we thought. So here's the entry on Memory Alpha has them is a vigorous and rather violently athletic game played by people from many worlds in the 24th century. Popularity among youth is a concern for parents. Let's see, he says involve 2 teams of 4 players. Substitutions were possible, which allows you to rotate active team members and rest some people. But some players, such as Commander Riker, dislike that practice, feeling doing so creates a disruptive loss of the team's rhythm. Obviously, they've mentioned it a lot here, actually, more than I thought.
Talks about
specifically
something
in the episode 11001001. Let's see. It uses a piece of equipment called an ion mallet. It also involves a ramp, and if players are not careful, they could fall off and injure themselves.
Interesting.
So the question becomes, how could you do some kind of sports thing in the Foundry, especially given what we know about it?
I'm working on skiing.
Skiing.
Yeah, I'm going to give it away. I'm such an idiot. I always give my stuff away. I'm going to use the frost boots. I'm going to use angled ramps and let people ski.
That actually sounds really fun.
Yeah.
Do people slide when on ramps?
Yeah, you give yourself a little run, and then you put on the slider. Because, I go floating around Ryza, and I kind of, pretend to ski down the hills on my floater. Kind of. And then I sort of kind of got that idea, and then I would put my frost boots on, and I was like, frick, yeah. So let's do a winter event with skiing. And I do in my, what the hell did I call it? The local Bouche de Paradiso. I'm experimenting with you go up high, and I put white rings way up high. They're actually light sources, and they end up looking like halos. And as you drop through the halos, more appear below you, and so it's like, and it's like basically a free fall zone, and you drop into water. and it's so you can practice free fall. So I'm kind of experimenting with that kind of stuff, extreme sports or something, whatever. That's my contribution.
Well, I'm almost envisioning, sort of an arena kind of a thing with like a couple of ramps on each side, and maybe the objective is to like get something from one side to the other, up, down your ramp and then up the other ramp, like capture the flag almost.
Yeah,
the basic impression that I've gotten of Parrises squares is that it was in some way similar to street hockey. That is in terms of what your goals while playing the game are.
How about some 0G style dodgeball, street hockey-esque? You can hit the person with the ball or with the something. What do we have like that?
The ion mallet.
Yeah, I don't think you're supposed to hit your opponents with the ion mallet, but
But Commander's Game, if anybody read those books, they had that awesome combat game they played in 0G. You need to incorporate something like that.
That was
It's something you can play on
amusing,
floaters, since we have floaters in
Yeah.
the floater volume.
So what
the amusing part with Ender's Game is that apparently one strategy that was officially not banned, but was something that most of the cadets had simply never thought of, was to avoid getting hit by using your previously hit comrades as human shield.
Or freezing your legs and putting your gun between your legs and just going forward.
Yeah, I suppose there's that one too. Yeah, because that was one thing that they did, is that when somebody would get hit, Ender's team would just kind of like carry them around and use them as a human shield.
What if Parrises squares was something like a jumping puzzle?
Ooh, hey, that's an
jumping
idea.
from square to
There
square.
we go. That sounded more like a square.
Use actual squares. Yeah.
Maybe you can like coordinate, or if you get to certain points of advantage, you can cause a disadvantage for your opponent.
Nemesis Chicken did this thing where he made a clone of Qbert that was kind of like that.
Yeah, and triggers, that would be easy to rig up triggers that way.
Yeah.
You could start people at the bottom and, maybe like provide a jumping puzzle that, people can take to different paths and see who gets to the end point first. And maybe there's some things you can do to sabotage the other person.
Well, one thing to consider here, though, is that while you have triggers and such like in the Foundry, you cannot do if, then, and sort of logic with different styles of triggers. Because, yes, you can do things where, two things have to happen in order to trigger something, but it has to be two of the same thing. Like reach 2 markers, or click on 2 dialogue buttons.
Reach markers are or, not and.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
They work in tandem together.
Sorry, was that reach markers and which?
Reach markers are or, I think.
Or and. Oh, I gotcha.
Yeah, because if you specify multiples, the logic of how it decides whether or not you've completed it is apparently different between whether you use reach markers or if you use dialogue buttons. Dialogue buttons, we have to hit all of them, apparently.
Well, we're touching on some good stuff. Like, I really like the Qbert idea where and using squares and triggers, and sort of you could either, of course, I just always go back to floaters. You could hop from place to place, or you could walk from place to place.
The Qbert one was actually very simple in that you started out at the bottom. There was one block you could jump up to. When you jumped up to that, it would spawn 2 more blocks. And when you jumped onto one of those blocks, it would spawn more blocks. And It was simply a matter of jumping to the right blocks in order to get it to spawn more blocks that went up. And when you got to the top, then you win.
So adding a thinking component, whereas certain blocks would spawn a certain pattern of blocks in front of you, so that you could see have a few blocks in front of you, and depending on what the color they were or shape they were or whatever, you knew that they were going to spawn 2 blocks in a Y form, or 2 blocks straight in a straight line, or staircase style blocks or something. So you could actually have to start to in quick real time map out like a chess kind of hopping position based on what you see in front of you. That's pretty fun.
Or to incorporate a PvP aspect of it, you could. Okay, so you start out with 2 guys at the same spot, and they have 2 different paths, diverging through this jumping puzzle. Okay, whoever gets to a checkpoint first hits an interact that spawns the next part of the jumping puzzle. And if you got to yours first, the one that you spawn gives you a slight advantage. If they got to theirs first, it advantages to them, and then you try and race to the next checkpoint.
Yeah. Or you could choose to advantage yourself or disadvantage the other person. That's another twist on that.
Yeah. I think the things that I'm envisioning are like where you have one objective through the whole map, and it's just like a reach marker or something at the end, like a finish line, and everything else is done in just triggers.
Oh yeah, it definitely would have to be.
With surfboards.
Can't do surfboards yet.
Yeah.
We're hoping maybe someday they'll give us the surfboards.
Taco basically said that surfboards are a special character animation, and thus it's not like the jetpacks where you actually float in the air.
I apologize for putting that out there. I didn't mean to derail us. I'm sorry. I remember when I know we went through all this last. Every time you have me on to do this. I'm sorry. We were on a good tangent there. Back to it.
Well, I think we've covered that one and done some good brainstorming. So if anyone is interested in entering that contest, it is in a post in the Foundry section of the forums.
Well.
So let's see. I want to end by posing a community question to everyone out there. This is something that came up a little bit recently on the forums, and we were talking about players who play and rate missions who are not Foundry authors, who are not familiar with the limitations and the things that we face as authors. So the question I'm going to put out to everybody and respond in our show thread, and we'll talk about it on the next show, is, as an author, what do you wish players would know when they go to play your mission? What knowledge do you wish they would come into the play time with that would help them give you a more fair review?
I can think of a really short list. The top thing on my list would be an understanding of the technical limitations of the Foundry.
I can't change that interact text.
That's not a small
default
subject.
Text.
Yeah. We have shows on that. Entire months of shows.
but there's maybe a few basic things that we could.
Well, that's
hope
the best way I can think of to summarize what I would like to see in reviewers.
Sorry, say that again?
I said that was the best way I could think of to summarize what I would like to see in reviewers.
Oh, okay. For myself, I would just like, it's a very simple statement. There's a lot of effort and personal creativity that most people who make stories put into expressing themselves through the Foundry, and just to recognize that people are trying to make good content and to help them do that, because they're trying to make a good mission for you. I don't think anybody goes out and says, I want to make a piece of crap. I don't think anybody really does that. So, that would be my first thing to communicate.
I agree,
It's just that there is thought, effort, and time, and a little bit of dreaming that someone's personal dream goes into that usually. So respect that and help them create and develop that so you can have a better game.
Yeah, I think bottom line is that we would rather you be helpful than anything else.
True.
I can't make that Captain 1 mob any easier and still be a boss. I think you should look at your build.
Learn to play, dude.
And for the next reviewer, no, I can't make it any harder.
Sorry, we don't have elite mode in the Foundry.
Yeah, we do. It's just set by the player.
Well,
and we can't make anything harder than that.
Yeah. It's not quite the same as making it an actual elite version of a official mission.
Well, we can recreate the Agent Smith dog pile from the Matrix. That would make it harder.
That's the only way we can do time loops, right?
Well,
Let's make it so hard that it kills you and you need to respawn.
What can I say? It's inevitable.
I have to say that the thought of doing a battle where you have that many enemies that you smack around like rag dolls does amuse me.
That would be fun.
I think I've got an ambush of about 4 captain mobs.
No, but like
No,
all ensigns.
Not
all
Captain
ensigns
Mob.
and all skinned exactly the same, and you with a batleth. Or one of those glowing Lurpas.
As much as that would totally be could be misinterpreted as a grind mission. That does sound like an interesting experience.
Well, one thing that would be really fun is to
it's
use
ground,
that,
so it would give you nothing.
The DOS that makes electrogravitic field act like a grab well. That would make it a bit more interesting.
Fun. That would be so fun. I've got a scene in Photons where I warn the player. I say, "Do not go near the Ferengi at the bar," and I warn them about 3 times. And I even give them a radius. I go, "Don't you? You can go." And if they do, man, they get it. They're not coming out of that one.
Don't
That's
push the
the thing
button.
Apex was pissed at.
Well, I want to know what our listeners think, and we'll talk about it again on the show next time. But for now, Dragoon, why don't you put up our contact info?
Oh, hey,
right.
Drogan, do I have time to talk about the Foundry Universe concept, or are we going to tantalize that for people to tune in next time?
I think we're just about at our limit, so we can save that for another time.
Let's tantalize them.
Yes.
Next time on the
Foundry Universe.
Foundry Universe concept.
Whatever that means.
Tune in to find out.
Film at 11.
We can be reached at email at foundryroundtable@live.com. We can also be found on Twitter at Foundry Roundtab. This is also usually the place where we post that we've had to delay the show or give updates or that sort of thing. So it's a great way to follow us and get updates. Drogan can be reached specifically at Drogan1701. Markhawkman can be reached at MAR Hawkman. And I can be reached at Greendragoon with 2 O's.
Oh, and my Twitter is Jahmen1 at Jahmen1. And I'm on there as well. And all my missions are under the username Heisenberg. So if you're having trouble finding those, most of them are in the review section. So get them out of purgatory.
We'll try and help you out there.
See, I just
Thanks,
use
Bass.
the same name everywhere, and then everyone knows who I am.
I like to confuse them.
All right. Well, we will say goodnight.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. See you out there.